G'day from Australia. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land from which I'm broadcasting. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. My name is Ashley Davis. Welcome to my coding live stream. Today is the second day of my special coding live stream. I was hoping to wrap this up yesterday, but live streaming is quite demanding, and I hit a problem, and I just didn't have the creative energy left to solve it. So I decided to put it off and continue today. I'm developing an outline component in React using TypeScript. I've tried to write some automated tests for this using Jest and Enzyme, and that's where I've run into some problems. I'm going to show you how I'm going to move forward today beyond those problems. And hopefully we're going to wrap this project up today. As I'm working, I'm going to do my best to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is AshleyDavis75. So I've broken this project down into milestones. So yesterday we completed milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. We basically completed milestone 4, which is adding drag and drop, but that fundamentally broke my tests. While I was trying to fix the tests, I hit some problems, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Today we're going to be working mostly on milestone 5 and hopefully wrapping up this project. Now, just to show you what we did, I'm going to show you what it looked like at the end of yesterday. I just have to find the window. Do I even have it running? Let me start it again. I thought I'd left it running. So this is starting my test bed. So the test bed I created yesterday to test my React component. Let me make that terminal a bit bigger. I'll make this one a bit bigger as well. Cool. So this is the web page that I'm using to test the React outliner component. Just still waiting for React to compile at the moment. Takes a moment or two. While that is loading, I'll show you the Git repo actually. So the Git repo, it's on my GitHub, Ashley Davis, React outliner. Actually, I've actually, that's the template. If I just refresh this, you should see the real README. So between live streams, I've actually written up a README for this. It's pretty basic. It shows you the basics of how to use it. I'm going to add more to this a bit later once this component is actually finished. So it's available on GitHub. Please feel free to download the code here or clone the code yourself. I'm happy for other people to contribute to this as well. So if you want to, fork it, make some changes, submit a pull request. I'd love to see some other people kind of working on this as well. This is already published on NPM, so I'll just refresh this as well so you can see the latest version of the README. So it's published on the NPM package repository under React Outliner. You can see the README here that I created yesterday between live streams. So you can install this from NPM into your React projects now and try it out. And it's not finished, but it is a little bit functional. It's just it's got some rough edges as well, and hopefully we're going to work through those today. Now this is actually the 5th session in this live stream. So I did 4 sessions yesterday. It's a massive monumental live stream, and you can find all these on my YouTube account, the Data Wrangler. Look for the Coding Livestream React Outliner playlist, and you can see parts 1 through to 4 that I recorded yesterday. So today is part 5. Maybe part 6, maybe part 7. I don't really know yet how long it's going to take to finish this, but let's see. Now let's go back to my testbed application. That's up and running. So you can see here what I created yesterday. I'm making something that's a little bit like workflow, where you can basically edit notes. You can hit enter to create a new note. You can hit Control Delete to delete it. And the last thing we added yesterday was the ability to use drag and drop rearrange to rearrange the outline. Now, it's a bit rougher around the edges. It needs a little bit of cleaning up. The code probably needs a bit of refactoring. I want to convert this into a tree. So I'll show you what we're aiming at. So I'm basing this off Workflow, which is a cool little kind of outlining project where you can type things. You can nest them. So this is what I'm trying to do today with my component, is have this nesting in there. And so you have like a tree-like structure, a hierarchical structure for taking notes. Now, the problem I had yesterday is that the structure, let me refresh you on what the code structure looks like now. If you remember this before, we added drag and drop. It was quite simple, but now that we've added this drag and drop code to the React component, we've got this drag context, got a handle if here for what happens when dragging ends. We've got the area where we can drop. We've got the thing that can be dragged, the draggable, which is basically the list of notes. And there's complex structure here that's required by React Beautiful Drag and Drop from Atlassian. So that's the library that I'm using to implement drag and drop. It's got like a function here that kind of wraps your list of droppable or your droppable area, and it's got a function here that wraps up your draggable item, and does all the stuff, all the coordination it needs to kind of support drag and drop. So that's significantly complicated this. I was using Jest and Enzyme for tests. You can see what the tests used to look like here, where I'm using this shallow function to kind of mount a React component, run expectations against it. And I started here, you can see here some of the work. I was starting to try to figure out how to get this to work. What I then realized, because this is the first time I've used Enzyme, and this is the first time I've done this kind of automated testing against React components. I've done plenty of test-driven development before, but not in this way. I figured the shallow basically instantiates my outliner component, but it doesn't instantiate the children. So what that meant is that things like droppable and draggable weren't instantiated, and whatever they do in these functions wasn't instantiated either. So I wasn't getting what I expected to be there because of that, because I was using this shallow function. And I looked up the Enzyme documentation, and it said use mount instead if you want to instantiate the full element hierarchy. So I did that, and there was problems. I had to set up some stuff. I had to add. I had to set up JS DOM to simulate the DOM under Node.js, which is what I'm using for testing. And that's where I stopped my live stream yesterday, because I ran into problems and I was out of energy. I couldn't figure out then how to move forward. I needed a break. So I had a break. I had a rest. I came back to researching it to figure out what it was. I worked through a couple of problems, and I made it a little bit further into the testing. And then I hit a brick wall that meant I couldn't go any further. And I'll show you what that is. I looked up this issue here, which was like related to issues I was having using the mount function. And it specifically related to React 17, and I double checked that is what I'm using. I am using React 17. I got down to here, and it says Enzyme is not yet compatible with React 17. You're using the React 16 adapter that requires React 16. Please see for that support. So I opened up that next page, and it's an open issue to support React 17. So I'd hit this brick wall basically where Enzyme doesn't properly support React 17 yet, and so I couldn't continue using it to testing. It was just like, look, I may as well wait till they fix it, until they support React 17 before I try and use this again, which is really unfortunate because I was really, really enjoying using Enzyme. I thought it was really cool. So I'm not going to do any more automated testing today, at least. I'm going to put it off now, and I'm just going to go forward and finish this component using manual testing. I might come back in a future live stream after they do support React 17. I might come back and update the code so that my tests work again, and that I test the remaining functionality that I'm going to add to the component today. The other way I could do this is to use the React testing tools, but I don't want to get bogged down in testing again and the problems that's going to cause. That'll be for a future live stream. I might even use Cypress If Enzyme doesn't update for a long time, I might just go back to what I normally use, which is Cypress, which allows you to do end-to-end testing for a complete web page. It's not ideal for this situation. It's not ideal for unit testing a React component, but it may be the best option. So I'll make that decision in the future. I don't have to worry about that again now. So I've already taken the tests basically out of my package.json. So my package.json had if you remember yesterday, I can probably just undo it actually. No. But it had a pre-published step here in the scripts that would run the testing before I published it on NPM. And so that means that if the tests were broken, it wouldn't get published, which is a great step to have in there. Basically, it stops you from accidentally publishing something, unless all the tests pass, unless they work. I've taken that out for the moment. And what I might do actually is have it run my lint before I go to before I publish it. So I'm just going to go into source tree, and I might just restore that. Oh, it's still an uncommitted change, so it's still in my change list here. Oh no, that's JS DOM, which I don't want. That was part of my trying to get testing working yesterday. So here's where I remove the pre-published step. I'm just going to reverse that. So you can see that that's back in my, I've added that back into my package.json. I'm going to come back here now and change that. So basically this is a really cool NPM script that automatically runs whenever you're going to publish. It cleans my build directory, it runs my tests, it runs my build before doing the publish. So this makes sure that my TypeScript code is all compiled to JavaScript as well before it gets published. So that when you're getting this package, when you're getting it from NPM, what you're getting is not the TypeScript code, you're getting the JavaScript, the built JavaScript code, which means you can use this package from any TypeScript or JavaScript project. I'm gonna change this. Instead of running npm test, I'm gonna make it run npm lint, npm run lint, which is this script here, which runs tslint and just checks it for the errors that I've got set up in my lint configuration file here. So at least I've got something there. I've got something there before the publishing to check my code. But obviously I need to build the code as well. Otherwise I'll be publishing possibly JavaScript code that I built yesterday, which won't be any good. So I'm just going to commit that change in source tree. So what have I done here? Let's double check. So it's great to just in source tree or using git diff, just double check the code that you're committing before you commit it. Save yourself accidentally committing any embarrassing mistakes that should be easily spottable. So I've re-established npm pre-published script to lint and build the code before publishing. So I will publish to NPM again later today. There's no need to do that yet because there's no extra. There's nothing extra there that I've added yet that needs to be published. But I will push that up to GitHub. So that's going up to the Git repository right now, and you can grab those code changes if you want to follow along. Before I move any further, I've got two terminals open here that I already opened. Actually, that's a PowerShell terminal. I don't know why. Oh no, that was strange. It said PowerShell up there. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename these terminals so I know what I'm doing here. So this is for my React component build process. And this one here is for my React test bed. So this is where I'm developing the component and building it. And this terminal here is where I'm testing it in a web page. So what I can do here, I'll just get this set up again just in case my settings didn't persist from yesterday. I'm going to link these two. So normally right, this component over here, this component here, the React outliner, is published on npm, and here to get it in here we do like npm install React outliner. Now I've already done this, so I'm not. This should update it actually. This should update it to the latest version, but it doesn't matter because it was already installed anyway. and I'm not even going to be using the version that's published on npm. What I want is a quick turnaround time for basically development and testing of this React component. And so, making a change, publishing it to npm, and then installing the updated version again is just going to be that would make for a very slow development cycle. So I'm definitely not going to do that. But as you will probably have seen yesterday, if you're watching, I can use npm link. So I'm creating a symbolic link basically to link my component into my React testbed here. So in here, in my testbed now, I can type link, the name of the component that I want to link, which is React Outliner. And you can see in the output here that it's creating a symbolic link from one directory to another. So if we were to go and have a look in the node modules folder and then have a look in the React Outliner folder, you would see that that was linked back to this directory in my other terminal here. So now what I can do is I can run my live reload build process, which I've got set up as the build watch script. And that starts it in the TypeScript compilation in watch mode, so that when I change my TypeScript code, I will it will automatically compile it. Now I'll just show you what that looks like in package.json. So package.json, we've got this build watch script. So we're running TSC, which is the TypeScript compiler, with the watch flag, and that's how we're running that in live reload mode. I could, npm scripts are a great way to kind of remember how to do these things. So I could just remember how to run the TypeScript compiler using npx like that. That does the same thing. That is exactly the same thing. But I have this script set up on every Node.js project, so it doesn't matter whether I'm using TypeScript, Babel, some other build process like Grunt or Gulp or whatever you want to use, whatever I'm going to use, I always have it under that one. So I only remember this one command basically, and whatever project I'm in, that will start it. This project here, the testbed project that I've just changed over to, it is it was created by using Create React App, the tool that allows you to create like a stub React application that you can play with. So it comes with npm start automatically configured to start the web page. So I'm starting up my testbed application. So this is just like what we saw before when I did the demo. But now the way I've got it set up is I can change any TypeScript code, and the changes will just flow through. So let me just show you. So I'll get my code and my testbed side by side. So I'm in the code for the React component here. I'm not in the code for the testbed, but they're linked together. So I can change something here. Let's just change one of these default notes. Let's call it note 202. So I save that, and that's automatically going to flow through. So you can see I didn't do anything except save the file, but that change flowed all the way through. So the process that happened there is my live reload compilation process built this TypeScript code to the JavaScript code that is linked into the testbed application. The testbed application is also running in live reload mode. I think under the hood it's using Webpack Dev Server. So it automatically updates when it detects any JavaScript files have changed. And the JavaScript files that changed are the JavaScript files that were built by the build process for this TypeScript code. So hopefully that'll make sense. Cool, so I'm all set up for coding now. What am I going to do first? Let's have a look back at my plan. So I've decided not to fix these tests, so I will come back to that in a future live stream. So I'm moving on with milestone 5. I think I'll do a little bit of refactoring first though, before I get into milestone 5. So let's just do a little bit before we do that. So the purpose of milestone 5 is basically to convert the list structure into a tree structure where we can have each note can have child nodes. So there's going to be a hierarchy of nodes. But let's just put it here. So let's just do a bit of refactoring. The reason I'm doing this refactoring, and I'd love to have tests to support this refactoring, it's so much safer to do refactoring when you're supported by automated tests, but I'm just not in that situation where I've got those at the moment. So I can test here. Like what I want to do is maybe just make some changes to this code here. So if you remember yesterday, I added the drag and drop code here by working through the live online example for React Drag and Drop Beautiful. Let me show you that. So that was in Code Sandbox here. I've used this before, so I kind of know what I'm doing. Although, you know, like you do this thing once, and then a few months later you're forgetting completely how you've done it. But basically, I worked through and took the example code here that works. I transplanted that into my little application, and I tested that it works. If I tried to make changes to it while I was going, I would have broken it horribly, that's for sure. So that's the reason I've copied their code across as is. I kind of know what all this does. It's not like I'm copying across code that I don't know, because I have been through all this before, and I kind of know it. You know, it's coming back to me at least anyway. But still, you know, I'm not 100% happy with the style. I can probably simplify this a bit. You know, like I've hard-coded functions here into my render function, or hard-coded event handlers, I should say. I've hard-coded styles. I don't know if I need any of this. I'm actually just going to have a quick look at Workflowy and see what it looks like when I do drag and drop here. So I'm going to drag and drop that. So it doesn't even do much at all. In fact, I think I'll strip out all the styling code for drag and drop. That'll clean it up and clear it up a bit, and then later I can come back and add my own nicer styling. So I'll do that. I'm just going to put this inline. So I'm going to take this list styling here, and I'll try just putting it inline here and see what I get from that. And like, I don't think this says if it's dragging you make it light blue, otherwise you make it light grey. Like, who cares? In fact, I don't know if I want any of that styling. Let's just delete all that and see what it looks like without that draggable item styling. But why am I refreshing Workflow? That's not what I'm looking at. This is the one I want. So now when we drag this, there should be less styling. So you can see that blue sort of background that we had before is gone. I'm okay with that. Let's look at what that other styling was there. Get item styling. So that was I think it was the list styling that we deleted just then. This is the styling, the Flexbox styling that I added to get this working the way I want it. User select, that's probably, I don't know, that might break something. I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know if we need any padding. I don't know if we need to change the background. It is adding a whole bunch of stuff here with this draggable style. So that is stuff that React Beautiful drag and drop wants to add to our thing to make it work in a way that supports drag and drop. So we need to preserve that. But I don't want any of that other stuff except for the styling that I added myself. And I'm going to move that in line so it's just a bit clearer. Here we go. So this bit here was the draggable style that was passed in, so I'm going to replace that. And then I don't need any of the rest of that stuff there. Oops. These styles have got to have like these double curly brackets. The reason for that is the first curly bracket here basically allows you to type code in your JSX. So outside of that, we're basically in HTML. Inside that, we're basically in JavaScript code. And then the next curly bracket here basically designates the object. So that this here is a JavaScript object that defines our React style. So hopefully my code will still compile, and I can come back to my testbed, and you see that the styling has changed. And that's a pretty good. That's basically I've just taken out all the default styling that was added, except for what is absolutely necessary and the styling that I want to be there anyway. So that's a simple change, which has cleaned this up a little bit. What else can I do here? I can move this on drag end out to a separate function. It depends on the reorder function here, so you can see it depends on that. I'm going to have to move that out as well. So let's do that first and make sure it still works. So I don't have automated testing now to verify that this is all correct. So I have to be very careful I don't break this. So I've got Visual Studio Code here to help me. Obviously it's picked up an error here, but I can no longer declare it that way. So I'll just change how I declare it. I'll make it private. It can be private to this class. No one else needs to call this function externally. There's some extra syntax there that's no longer needed. Okay. Now, mostly Visual Studio Code is telling me that's all okay. It's got an error down here that it can't find the name reorder. I need to basically put this there. I think it'll actually fix it for me automatically as well. If you hover over it and you go quick fix, it says add this to unresolved variable. So Visual Studio's code is smart enough to figure out what some of the problems are that I'm causing in my own code, which is really nice of it. Now I want to make this event handler here that I've declared in line. I'm going to move that out to a separate function. It will be a private function as well. I'm going to call the function. I've got to give it a name now, so I'm going to call it onDragEnd. I'll make it private, so it's called onDragEnd. Tidy up the syntax a little bit here. I'll put some comments here as well to explain what these things are doing. Reorders a list that has a list of notes that has been drag and drop rearranged. Comments are always great, so you remember what this, the intent of what this code is going to do. So this is an event that is raised when drag and drop has completed. So when the user has dropped, what am I doing? Event raised. So that's private. This is a little bit of a quirk of using React, is that you've got to bind these functions. This is like literally probably the only thing that I dislike about React. People are probably going to be saying you should be using React hooks and then this wouldn't be a problem, but I'm not convinced React hooks is a great way to go either. Like, I prefer this kind of class and interface style, and I come from a very object-oriented programming background, so maybe that's why I prefer that, why I feel comfortable with that. So now here I need to call my onDragEnd function, so I'm just going to plug that in directly. I like to arrange my HTML on over multiple lines, but sometimes, when it's only got one attribute, I put it on one line. I think that's quite readable. Now I probably should already test that this is working. This should be live reloading, but sometimes I'm a bit paranoid. I like to press the refresh button just to make sure. Cool. Still looking pretty good. I can still drag and drop. Anything else here that warrants a bit of refactoring? I should probably handle these events in a function as well. I've got my key down event here. So I'm gonna let's see if I can use Visual Studio Code to refactor this for me. So I'm going to choose refactor. No refactoring. It's just not quite smart enough to be able to do that in JSX. I could have. I'll show you what I was trying to do. I could do that up here. I could say get this whole thing. Use control. Is it Control R? No. Control KR? No. Who knows? What's the hotkey for refactor? Control Shift R. I can refactor. I can extract this to a method. So if I wanted to pull that out, call it method blah, you can see how it's pulled that code out. That's really cool how it does that. And I wish I could kind of have that automatically do that down here as well, but it seems it can't do that. So I will do this manually. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to make a function called onKeyDown. So this function doesn't exist yet, so Visual Studio is telling me that it does not exist. But that's what I'm going to add up here. So I'm copying that code there. Convert it into a proper named function. Adjust the function syntax here. I'll type event to be any. I'll figure out what that's supposed to be in a second. I've got to do. Generally, I've got to fix some types up here as well. You can see I've used any, and I've used any in a couple of places related to the drag and drop code. Oh, this is a little bit complicated actually, because I've got to pass in this index. Do I need to pass in that? I do. I definitely do. So, so this is the index of the note that has been clicked on. just in case I wanted to delete it. That's the reason for this. So this is an event raised. Now I'm not going to bind this one the way that we bound it on drag end, because I'm going to call it directly here. So instead of calling it, just passing the function through like this, I've got to actually call it. So I'm going to put an extra anonymous function here. I'm going to call it with the event that's coming through. But I've got to pass the index through, so that's why I'm doing that way. If I didn't have to pass that index through, I could have set it up the way that I set up the other function that I just did a moment ago. So let's make sure that my key presses still work now. So I should be able to hit enter to get a new note. Yep, that's great. And I should be able to hit Control Delete to delete a note. That works as well. All good. So some quality refactoring here, all fully tested manually. Again, it would be great to have automated tests to make sure this stuff is still working. Because, obviously when you're refactoring, it's so easy to break the code. So easy to break it in ways that you won't even find out until later when if you do test it more thoroughly later. I'm just going to commit this now, and then I might add some more TypeScript types where I've used the any key. What did that update? I'll worry about that a bit later. So let's double check what I've done. So I've refactored out a bunch of functions. I've refactored out a bunch of styles. I've tested that it all works. There's nothing there which looks like it shouldn't go in. So, sometimes we write debugging code, or we do experiments in the code, and you don't normally want to check that stuff into production. So it's a good idea just to scan your diff to see if there's anything that shouldn't go in. So this is refactoring to simplify and remove styling and move event handlers to their own functions. Well, they're already functions, but their own. Let's clarify, their own named functions, so they're not anonymous functions anymore. Let's put this up. So this code is going up to the GitHub repo now. Please feel free to do a git pull and get the latest updates to see what I've done. I'm starting up the build process again there. Now I'm going to get rid of some of these types. Now on key down there should be the easy one, because I can literally look at the Intellisense here and you can see that it's a React keyboard event HTML div element. So I can literally copy this out. I'll select on key down, I'll hit F12 to jump to the definition of that, and I can paste in my type. So now I've got a nice type there. I can do things like, I should be able to get the Intellisense for the event. So you can see that it's going to complete any of the properties there, which makes it a really nice way to work with any JavaScript and TypeScript really, is if it has TypeScript types, which a lot of libraries do these days, then you get that Intellisense. On drag end is going to be a similar thing as well, so let's just find where that is. I'm going to, this time, so on drag end is a function that takes a drop result and this responder provided. So let's, and its return value, if you can see there, its return value is a void. So let's copy the entire, if I can make it hang around. Very, very careful here. I'm gonna, you know what? There's an easy way to do this. I'm gonna select on drag end, hit F12, go to the definition. So I've got access to the complete typing here, and so here in this other file, I'm gonna copy that. I'm using Control Tab now to go back to here. I'll click F12 on drag end to navigate back to my function. I'll just copy that code here. So where do I want to put that? I basically want to replace everything from result there. Now it's complaining because I haven't imported these, but I can easily fix this using quick fix. So I'm adding it to my imports, and this one here as well, I'm going to add that to my imports. So if I look up the top, you can see, these new ones here have been added to my imports. So why is this complaining? I inadvertently deleted a curly bracket there, so I'll put the curly bracket back in, and I think we're good there. I'm going to change the name of this thing here to be notes, so that's what I'm calling this list of notes is notes, so it makes sense to change that. What I did there was a refactor rename, so I hit F2. That allows you to change the variable to whatever you want, but you can see that, see here, everywhere that that variable is used, it gets changed. So let's change it back to notes. I'll hit F2 again to refactor rename that to notes. Is there anything else here that I would like to refactor? There's these things here as well. So I've typed these parameters that are coming through as any. Now I can't remember, there's no F12ing or anything here that I can do, or tooltips that are going to tell me what these things do. I think I have to go and look at the React beautiful drag and drop code, which I should still have open here. So this is the GitHub repo for Atlassian's React Beautiful Drag and Drop. This isn't going to be the API documentation, but I think I've already got that open in a tab here. That's the installation documentation. That's the examples. So I don't actually have the API docs. TypeScript and flow information. That might give me what I want, the TypeScript information. I mean, I can't instantly see what I want there. It might be one of these. Let's double check my code and see what the names are. So the names are provided and snapshot. Can I find... Well, there's a few provideds there. I don't see any snapshots. Let's search for snapshot. I mean, that's not giving me much to go on, so I don't know if I'm going to get anywhere with this just at the moment. It would be nice if there was like a TypeScript example of this, and then I could just see what types they use there. Here's an example written in TypeScript. That might show me what I want. So let's have a look through this code. Would it be in there in the public directory? No, there's no JavaScript code in there. Would it be in source? Index.tsx, app.tsx maybe? Yep, let's have a look at app.tsx. So I'm looking at an example TypeScript, a TypeScript example of using React Beautiful Drag and Drop. Now we can see some familiar stuff here, like what we saw in the example, like, you know, reordering the array of items, you know, functions for creating styles. What I'm looking for is the JSX. Here we go. There's the drag and drop context. Here's the function we're looking at. Provided is a droppable provided. So let's just copy this entire definition here. That's what we want. I deleted the parenthesis there. And again, I have to make sure these are imported. So this is not necessary, but you know, having static typing in there, it just gives you that extra level of confidence that, you know, you're using it the right way. You know, a bit of extra protection against making mistakes, and also obviously you've got the Intellisense. So I could, in here now, I could do provided, and it's going to show me the things in the list here that are basically inside that object. So it knows that because I've typed it. If I typed it as any, which I had before, it's not going to have that information to hand. Now the other function is this one here. Let me copy that. So sometimes when you're using a library like this, that's not, you know, not necessarily designed out of the box to be used with TypeScript, although I'm pretty happy they provided a TypeScript example so I can see what I'm doing. But It's not necessarily designed to work with TypeScript, so it can be easier to just get started by using the any type and then typing it later. Okay, I've broken something there. I think I've renamed the variables, which I shouldn't have done. So I'm just going to revert this back. So this line is what I want. This line is what it was, but I inadvertently renamed these parameters, and let's put them to the names that my code expects them to be. And I'll just make sure that these new types are imported into my file here. Save that. Let's go back to the web page and test that drag and drop still works. Cool. It's looking good. So that's my refactoring, I think, is done. So I have what I've done in this refactor to add TypeScript types where they were missing. I'll push that code later. I don't need to push that right away, I don't think. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of work on the styling. Yeah, I'll do a little bit of work on the styling, and then I'll wrap up this session. I'm still gonna come back for another session today, though, so don't go anywhere if you're watching live. But for the moment, I'm going to do just a little bit of work on the styling. So what do I want to do here? So this actually has the original styling that comes with the testbed. So let's change over to the Visual Studio Code for the. Where is that? I might have closed the Visual Studio where I had the testbed open. Let's have a look. So this is the JavaScript React testbed that was generated by the tool Create React App. So I did that in the first session. So you have to go all the way back to part 1 if you want to see how this was created. There should be a CSS file here somewhere. There it is, index.css. So this comes with just a little bit of CSS. Actually, there was another one. App.css, that's the one. So this comes with a ton of stuff that was from the original thing. I'm gonna get rid of stuff here that we don't need because, you know, it's part of the original template that I've already deleted. And oh, that might have been a bit too much because I kind of like the background. And in fact, I might just merge all this up into. I'll see if I can get away with merging all this up into here, just to simplify these styles a bit. So I don't need that extra kind of. I don't even need the header. That was just part of the template. We haven't even got an app logo, so let's get rid of that. So we're down to one style. I don't really want it to be centered, I don't think. That didn't even change what I thought it was going to change. Do I need to worry about the font size? That gives me a really small font. But what I might do is just set that to something a little bit simpler. Justify content center, maybe that's what I want to get rid of. Yep, so we're going to adjust all this. We're going to adjust all this probably in the thing. So that'll put it up there. I might just put a bit of a margin. That looks a bit horrible now. I'm going to put this background color. I'm going to put that on the body. Let's do a margin top as well. Min height. Do we care about that? That's making it the full height. Let's just see what that looks like. So you can see there the app class is the full height and the full width as well, I think. What was that? Is that because it's flex? Anyway, that's good enough. I've simplified the styling a lot there. One thing I want to do here is, at the moment, when you hit enter to create a note, a problem that we've had from the beginning, which I kind of dawned on me in the middle of last night, how I could, what the problem was and how I could fix it. But you see how I've created a note here. You can see by the bullet, but I can't edit it. But that's because the width of the note there is like 0 pixels. There's no text in it, so it's automatically aligned itself to 0 pixels. And so I can't click on it to edit it. I'm going to change that in the component. So what I want to do here is I'm going to use Flexbox again. But I want to make, where's my... I just want to see what this thing is here that's got the this flex styling on it to be a row. Let's just have a look at what that actually looks like in the element inspector. I'm just going to put the element inspector down the bottom because it's kind of getting in the way of the web page a bit there. Cool. So now I can make this better. I can make this bigger, sorry. So I'm just stepping up the element hierarchy here. And I'm seeing that you can see here that the draggable element goes all the way across the screen. That's cool. And the bullet is like 20 pixels. But then the note itself only takes up the space of the text. If I use on the note down here, what I need to use is flex grow. I don't know off the top of my head how to do that in CSS. I do a lot of kind of styling these days, but I'm not an expert in CSS. I tend to use Tailwind because I use Tailwind and a good CSS framework like Ant Design or Bootstrap. But what I can do here is in the this is awesome. If you use Tailwind, by the way, get the Tailwind cheat sheet. It's awesome. What I want to do is use the Flex Grow class from Tailwind, and if I look here, it can show me the CSS I need for that, which I don't know off the top of my head, because I never use, I just never go down to this level of CSS usually. So let's get the web page back. I don't know if this is all I need to do. I just need to reformat this for JSX. Cool. Does that give me what I want? So let's do an inspect element on this note. You can see already. So see how that note is going out to the full width now. So I use flex grow to make it take up the rest of the space in the flex row. So flex is just incredible for layout. Like honestly, CSS really scared me, and like there's this famous notion that centering something using CSS is a major drama, and it definitely was for me in the past. But since I've been using Flexbox, I'm much more capable in doing CSS layouts. It goes all the way across, but I don't really want it butting up necessarily right against the edge. So I'm going to do a margin on the right of just 5 pixels. So let's inspect element there again. Yeah, so you can see that there's a little bit of space on the right there, so it doesn't completely butt up against the right. Now what I should be able to do is hit enter, and then awesome! I can actually type a note now. That's fantastic. So just a little bit of styling there has really improved the usability of this. I've simplified the styling as well, and it's starting to look more like the outliner that I want it to look like. So that's it for this session, but I'm going to be back in, let's say, 10 minutes. So on the hour, I will be back. I will be live streaming again, and we're going to turn this from being a simple list of notes. We're going to turn it into a tree of notes with having children. You can make it as, the hierarchy of notes as deep as you want. So I will see you again in 10 minutes. Thanks for watching.